Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over all the information I could find about the itemization in Diablo 4. Now, itemization was one of the biggest criticisms of Diablo 3, and it seems like the developers of Diablo 4 have realized that because they have pretty much completely redone their itemization system for Diablo 4 based on community feedback. So just like my last video going over the talent trees of Diablo 4, I want to go over the original version of the itemization system and then go over the newest information we have and go over the reworked version of that. So the first time we got some information on the itemization for Diablo 4 was on November 3rd, 2019, and they had a full section for this that laid out all of the different rarities of items coming with Diablo 4. Now just a reminder, this is the old system, and a lot of these rarities actually aren't going to be things that are brought into Diablo 4, as we'll learn later on in the video. So first they lay out all of the different rarities of items, which go as normal, then magic, then rare, then legendary, and set items are in the same tier, then ancient, then mythic. So in Diablo 4, we want legendaries to be just as, if not more powerful than set items. We don't want you to feel beholden to one particular class set to play your chosen style. Ancient items are a system we'll be leveraging for seasons, but we'll dig into that at a later date. As for mythic items, these will be so powerful you'll only be able to equip one of them at a time. When it comes to combat statistics, we've simplified the math problem. Players should spend more time thinking about stats that change how they play rather than solving arithmetic. Attack and defense will be your bread and butter, one stat for increasing your damage and one stat for decreasing damage taken. More complex stats like attack power or melee damage reduce will still exist. However, these are stats that can change your approach to combat in more than a numerical way. While they might still increase your damage output or reduction, they do so in ways that make you think about the battlefield or which skills work best in different situations. Now again, most of the stuff we just went over has in some way changed. For instance, the ancient and mythic items laid out here are just removed out of the game. They're not planning on adding those in with Diablo 4. So that brings us to December 15th, 2020, where we get some new information on item qualities. We made some exciting changes to the game's item qualities. We like the clarity of analysis offered by clearly understood item tiers. In other words, we think players of all skill levels benefit from not having to scrutinize every single item that drops to see if it might be an upgrade for them. Blue items are good, but yellow items are usually better. There's a great feeling of progression when you graduate into items with greater complexity, more powerful effects, and cooler looks as you level up. And the game-changing powers found in legendary items in Diablo 3 are exciting and offer many possible effects that just aren't possible with regular affixes. That said, we don't want to end up in a place where the right decision is to ignore every item that doesn't have a glowing orange sky beam. So we're making a lot of exciting changes here. We are increasing the potential power of individual affixes on magic items. We're increasing the maximum number of affixes on rare and better items in the endgame. Legendary affixes now roll randomly, and unique items will replace mythics. And we get an example for this specifically showing the affix changes. So on the magic item, you have a hit effect for 16.8% immobilized chance. That's the only affix on that item. Then you go to a rare item and its hit effect is 11% immobilized chance. But there are two other affixes on this rare item. So you go up in rarity, you get more affixes on the item. But if you're looking for some single affix that is exactly what you need for your build, and it's going to be super strong for some specific unique build you're working on, maybe getting a magic item might actually be worth, because that single affix on the magic item is going to roll higher than any other item can possibly roll. Then they show a legendary item which has an additional affix on it. It has the same hit effect for immobilized chance, but this is only 9%, and then the legendary item also has its legendary effect on it. So essentially you get more total affixes the higher rarity you go, but the higher rarity you go, the less powerful one single affix is going to be. In general, the higher rarity items are still going to be stronger, but there are some possibilities for some very specialized builds to want just one singular stat pumped up as much as possible. And legendary items have pretty much been completely rebuilt for this more updated version of the itemization for the game. You can think of legendary items as rare items with one affix replaced with a legendary effect. These new legendary affixes work just like regular affixes in that they can randomly roll on different items and in different slots. Many can be used by any class, while some are specific to a particular class. And they give an example of a bunch of the different legendary effects. So essentially, you take a rare item, and what the game will do is change one of their affixes into a legendary item, and that legendary can be randomly rolled on different item slots. So it could be on boots or a chest or gloves or any other slot, and the legendary effect can also be randomly rolled. Now also keep this in mind, because this is also further updated upon, but this is the legendary system that they are currently going with for the game. There's just an additional system tied onto this. And then we have unique items, which, as mentioned, are replacing the mythic tier of items we previously went over. So just to re-go over, at this point, we now have normal items, magic items, rare items, legendary and set items, which are considered to be in the same tier, and now unique items. Unique items are making a comeback in a big way in Diablo 4. We're embracing the fantasy of these build-around items with completely fixed affixes, heavily thematic, and usually class-specific powers and distinctive looks. And they give an example of 3 different unique items that can be obtained at level 20. And they go on to say, we still like the idea of mythic items, but we don't want to create an item quality that invalidates all others. So they're out for now. One of the things we loved most about them was the premise of getting random legendary powers on an item, so we folded that into our baseline legendary design. So essentially, they removed mythics, re-added in the unique items like they had in Diablo 2, and this is the current system they're going with. And also, looking on these unique items, they all say limit 1 equipped, and 1 is a generic item, so it doesn't have a specific class, and the other 2 are druid. So it's seeming like unique items are still keeping the only one able to be equipped from the mythic items that they were going with before, but they're redesigning them to be completely static rolled items, but very important for specific builds. So that brings us to December 20th, 2021. As discussed in our December 2020 update, which is what we just went over, legendary and unique items remain a core part of the Diablo item chase experience. We've made a fundamental change to legendary items in Diablo 4 by allowing legendary powers to appear on multiple item slots. Now, if you're searching for a legendary power, like martial arts, which enhances the barbarian's kick ability, you may find it on rings, chest plates, or helmets. There's no need to hunt for a specific item type any longer. Now the real question is, what happens when you find a power on an axe when you really want it on a ring, or you found a great legendary amulet but can't use the power? Well, that is when we introduce our new friend, the occultist. So essentially what they're explaining here is that every legendary power is now going to be able to randomly roll on a handful of different item slots. So you don't have to search for a specific legendary power on one specific item. They're a bit more randomly rolled and can appear on a handful of items. The occultist can extract a legendary power from a legendary item, crystallizing it into essence while destroying the item in the process. That essence can then be implanted into another legendary item, overriding the power that was present in the item at that time. Essence material can also be stored and used at a later time. So essentially what this is allowing is, if you get a legendary item with a legendary effect you want, you can go to this occultist, pull the effect off of that legendary item, which will destroy that item in the process, but give you this essence that has the legendary effect on it. Unique items cannot be modified in this way, keeping their fantasies intact, and as their name implies, unique. So you can't put these legendary essences onto unique items. So they give an example of this, of a pent up axe, which has a Fury legendary effect on it. And they pull this legendary effect off this axe, which destroys the axe, and then gives you this essence, which is the pent up glowing essence, has that same legendary Fury effect. And then it also has some rules for using this essence. So it can be used on one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons, gloves, amulets, or rings. And it has some modifiers as well. So on a two-handed weapon, the power would be increased by 66%, presumably to make it so having two one-handed weapons wouldn't just allow you to have a lot stronger legendary effects. And then on amulets, the power is increased by 33%. And I'm not sure what the actual reason for amulets having a higher effect would be. It may be that just any legendary effect on an amulet is stronger than on other items, maybe to give some additional build potential to allow you to get additional benefit on one specific item. Then they also show some new information, which they actually don't go over in this, but they show you a rare necklace with 4 different affix rolls on it. Then they show that rare necklace turned into a legendary necklace because you put a legendary affix on it. So now it's the same necklace with all the same affixes. It's now a legendary necklace with a whirlwind legendary on it. This is also showing that using these legendary essences, you can also put them on rare items. So even if you say got a legendary necklace with this whirlwind effect on it, but it didn't have that great of stats, you could pull it off that necklace, find yourself a really well-rolled rare necklace, and just put this legendary effect on that rare necklace. And I think this will give you a lot more opportunities to get the actual item you want or get better rolls on your items and just make it a bit more determined on getting a well-rolled item with the legendary effect you want on it. And they also go over one additional stat that's coming into Diablo 4, and that is plus skill rank affixes. As players invest points in skills, they grow in potency, and finding items with plus skill rank can speed that along. As a bonus, when the player equips an item with plus skill rank for a skill they haven't learned, they will have access to that new ability. It's a great way to try out new skills before you're able to invest in them. Getting a lucky drop that nets you a skill you would like for your build 10 levels before you would otherwise have access to it is a huge boost. This is a type of stat that you see in a lot of ARPGs and Diablo-like games, where you can get a roll on an item that has plus to some skill you have, increasing its power, or potentially giving you some other effects. Usually it's just a more linear power increase. And as an added benefit with the system, especially when leveling up, if you get an item with plus ranks to a skill that you don't yet have, it will teach you that skill. And also, past just having this as kind of a side effect for leveling up, if you're, say, at endgame and you get an item with plus rank to a skill you didn't put any points into, you could also use that skill. And depending on how the skill system and skill tree ends up playing out, you could potentially have a scenario where you put all of your points into other things, and then the final skill you want to use is going to be learned from having plus skill ranks for that specific skill on an item, so you don't have to put any skill points into that actual skill in the skill tree. But that would probably be a very niche possibility, and generally these will just be used as a more targeted stat to try to pump up one or a couple specific skills to make them much stronger for that specific build. So for example, Whirlwind Barbarians are something that are very popular in multiple Diablo games, and getting a bunch of plus skill ranks to Whirlwind for a Whirlwind build would obviously be incredibly strong. But that is pretty much all the information I could find on itemization for Diablo 4. And as I said in my last video going over the skill systems, I think that they are going the same route with itemization. They want more depth in your gearing, they want more customization and more possibilities for builds and creating more unique builds. And I do think they are definitely doing that with the plus skill rank affixes, the legendary essences, and allowing you to take them off items and add them onto other items. And then with the unique items, which personally I'm a pretty big fan of the design of having that unique item that's the one item that kind of puts all the pieces of your build bundled together and makes it a really viable build. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the itemization of Diablo 4, and thanks for watching.